بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء وأكرم المرسلين. إنه لشرف عظيم أن أكون معكم في هذا اليوم أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الزميلات والزملاء الأعزاء، لنتكلم أو لأتحدث عن موضوع هام، وهي قصة نجاح المملكة العربية السعودية في إعادة استخدام المياه الصناعية المعالجة بنسبة تقارب 100% خلال 17 سنة الماضية. تجربة ثرية، وأنا شخصيا عشت هذه التجربة منذ عام 2006 وحتى الآن، بصفتي ليس أستاذا لهندسة موارد المياه وإدارتها، ولكن أيضا بصفتي رئيس مجلس الإدارة ورئيس تنفيذي لكبريات شركات المياه والطاقة في المملكة وفي المنطقة العربية، أكوا هولدينج وأكوا باور ومياهنا. وكنت يعني لي الشرف في المشاركة في تأسيس أكوا منذ انطلاقتها مع عطوفة المهندس خلدون. ولا يسعني في هذا المقام إلا أن أتوجه بالشكر الجزيل إلى أخي وصديقي العزيز عطوفة المهندس خلدون، وأود أن أنوه في هذا المقام إلى جهوده المتميزة منذ تأسيس أكو حتى الآن في نشر المعرفة وفي رفع كفاءة مستويات إدارة المياه والصرف الصحي في المدن العربية. وهذه حقيقة يجب أن نتحدث عنها دائما، وأن ندعم جهود التي تقوم بها أكوا بجهود جماعية، وعلى رأسها عطوفة المهندس خلدون. التجربة السعودية التي أود أن أتحدث عنها، وسوف أنتقل للحديث باللغة الإنجليزية الآن. Ladies, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to be with you today to share with you a unique experience of Saudi Arabia for achieving total reuse of produced and treated industrial wastewater in all industrial cities by adoption of advanced governance framework in Saudi Arabia. The contents of the presentation, I will just speak briefly about the causes of failures in wastewater reuse schemes in some Arab countries and other countries, and then the adoption and implementation of advanced governance framework for total reuse of treated industrial wastewater in all industrial cities in the kingdom. Third, I would like to share with you about our experience in water use implementation and the gain benefits, and I will conclude my presentation in describing some conclusions and recommendations. And as Mr. Khaldun and His Excellency, also other excellencies, Dr. Hazem, Dr. Abdul Qawi mentioned about the causes of failures in wastewater reuse, I think, and in spite of all hard efforts and all investment scheme by water agencies in many Arab countries, I think, and also in many arid countries, to maximize wastewater reuse to satisfy the growing demands and to fill the gap in water shortages, the achieved targets for reuse remains limited, and it is not far less than the expectations of national planners and decision makers. I think, to me, this has been mainly attributed to weak absence, to the absence of sound governance frameworks that are required for implementation of the reuse of treated wastewater, including deficiencies in policies, strategies, organizational structures, institutions, framework, and lack for financial and technical capacities. Adoption of how we adopted sound governance frameworks for total treatment and reuse of industrial wastewater in Saudi Arabia. You know, in the 80s and 90s of the past century, and also, you know, in the beginning of the century, I can say hundreds of conferences, you know, held in the Arab region. and all of us, professors, decision makers, planners, we talk about wastewater reuse. And we have, in some countries, we have really deficiencies here and there, but still we have wastewater, treated wastewater. We put investment, we put, many efforts, capacities, everything, but we be not able to achieve the target of wastewater reuse. But for Saudi Arabia, I can say that really the wastewater reuse during the 80s and 90s was very, very limited. But at the beginning of this century, due to rapid expansion and development, economic development of urban industrial sectors, we have really shortages in domestic, industrial, and agricultural demands, and the reuse of wastewater has become a major issue in our national water strategy to achieve secured or secure water security, sustainable water security in the country. And we feel that the major issue here is related mainly, we have financial capabilities, we treat our industrial wastewater, we treat our domestic, but we are not able to do it. As His Excellency Dr. Hazem mentioned, responsibilities scattered, over different agencies. We are, in a mess. So we started with the very important issue. Industrial wastewater, it has really a detrimental impacts on groundwater, on marine, because unlimited or uncontrolled discharge of industrial wastewater really have really negative impacts on polluting our groundwater resources, polluting our coastal zones, and also affecting, even the environment, and also have contributed to even climate change impacts. So we thought that, and after deep investigation, we thought that we have to have really a sound governance. First of all, we have to have the higher authority endorsement. The higher decision maker, they should adopt and support the policy for wastewater. And we have to have really a strategy which stated clearly that treated wastewater reuse is one of the pillars to achieve water security, sustainable water security on a long-term basis, according to the SDGs and according to the Saudi Vision 2030. So, in fact, the pillars which of the governance frameworks for the total reuse for the industrial, we started with industrial wastewater, treated industrial wastewater in all industrial cities includes three things. First of all, we have to create, in a holistic approach. We have to be very specific and spell it out. We should not be general, talking here, throwing statements or advice. We have to be very clear, very specific, very accurate. So the first pillar, creation of enabling environment. Second pillar, creation of industrial wastewater reuse market. Third, development of sound management instruments. And I have been part of that team who developed this strategy for industrial wastewater reuse. Creation of enabling environment includes the following. First of all, we have to have a national development of national water strategy to achieve sustainable water security according to Saudi 2030 vision and UN SDGs, emphasizing the use of treated wastewater. And that was done in the beginning of the century. Second step, we had to secure a strong political support by higher economic council and royal decree, which was issued in 2002, emphasizing the reuse of wastewater as part of our strategy to achieve sustainable water security, including and considering PPP, public-private partnership in water sector. The third issue, which is related to creation of enabling environment, is we have to develop, or we develop sound legal frameworks for wastewater reuse. You know, I really like to have more time to, you know, to explain all these things, but I will just list it and later maybe we can discuss. Sound legal frameworks and enforcement, control over quality of collected wastewater treatment and distribution. Then identification of investment structure. This is very, very important. So we have developed really a very clear and precise, you know, practical, visible investment structure to support reuse schemes until 2030. The second pillar, creation of industrial wastewater reuse market. I like always in our discussion, please, if you don't have wastewater reuse market, you will fail. We should not be ashamed or shy of it. You have to have a wastewater use market for industry. You have to have a wastewater use market for agriculture. You have to have a wastewater use market for landscaping, for, you know, different purposes, for district cooling, for, you know, refineries, for so and so and so. We have to create markets. These are very, very important. To create market, you should have an organization which is responsible for that market. And in this case, for industrial wastewater use, we established what we call Saudi Authority for Industrial Cities and Technology Zones. It's called MUDN, responsible for total development and total management of industrial cities with the required infrastructure, including contracting with the private sector. Second, development of sound wastewater collection, treatment, and reuse facilities. Very, very important to have that under the supervision of MUDN. Third, development of water regulator and enforcement agency. So you have to have a regulator to oversee and to be the judge and to control all these issues. Fourth, the use of advanced and effective approaches in wastewater use, such as closed water cycle, or some people, they call it zero liquid discharge. So we have to use really a visible advanced technology for that. The third pillar, development of sound management instruments. What we mean by sound management instruments, I like always to spell out. I don't like to throw, you know, general statements. We need to do that. We have to be really very specific in a holistic approach of what we are doing, because you can follow, you can define your KPIs, you can control. So the development of sound management instruments include, first of all, development of bankable BOT projects. And this is very, very important, because the private sector will not come. You cannot attract him if he is not able to make some money. To attract skilled and qualified private sector participation through PPP and for mobilization of additional financing. In the beginning, by the way, when we started this business, 2006, only one BOT bid, you know, went for Jeddah Industrial City. All of them, including international private sector, they shy away from it. The only company is Aqua Power and MIAH, which I used to chair, and myself, I developed the first BOT contract, and it was very, very profitable. And really after that, you know, a lot of, you know, competition and you know, national and international private sector and banking agency, they came to the platform, and they've been, you know, a key player in this issue. Second issue, development and execution of transparent RFPs for wastewater treatment and reuse, bidding processes and contracting to gain private sector confidence. Development of fair regulated water tariff. This is really very important, because when you sell the treated industrial water to factories, you have to have really a fair tariff, and you have to ban the use of other water resources for those industries. They have only one source, is the treated industrial wastewater, and the regulator is responsible to judge, you know, how much the cost, how much the profit margin, and so on and so on. And the last two important issues related to sound management instruments, setting sound KPIs for effective monitoring of the implementation of the BOT contracts, and sound customer service for ensuring good quality services for the industrial plants. We have to be fair. You have to be fair between the users, between the producers, between the manager, between the developer. This is a very important equation, and to respect all the key players. I think large-scale water use industrial cities, the first and the only bid submission by private sector for the industrial city of Jeddah was, submitted by MIAH company in 2006. And I was, involved heavily in developing the first, BOT. And, the Mudun, they waited so many months, and not a single private sector company, national or international, came to the picture. And they're scared. But we put our bid on the table, and we proved that it is going to work, and it worked. Alhamdulillah, now all industrial cities, are running, and the wastewater is treated and reused by private sector through BOT contracts. And this story has been continuing since 2006 until now, 2022. The time is short. Just I want to say examples of the benefit of the reuse of a treated industrial wastewater, in addition to, protection of the environment. We have saved, in two small industrial cities in Dammam, we saved about 28 million cubic meter of desalinated and transported seawater, desalinated seawater and the groundwater to those industrial cities. In those two small industrial cities, we saved about 855,000 megawatt hour per year, worth of saving 1.6 million barrels of oil, worth about $160 million, considering the, the oil price at $100 per barrel. This is in addition to reduction of gas emission, which really having positive impacts on climate change. I think we have so many, benefits, which I can still add and talk about it. I think the successful expertise or experience of the kingdom in the treatment and reuse of all produced industrial wastewater in the kingdom attributed, I think, to me, to the adoption and implementation of sound governance frameworks. Second, I think the above accomplishments help the kingdom in saving large volumes of groundwater, desalinated, transported seawater, and this have contributed to saving also a lot of energy, and also in meeting, the Saudi Vision 2030 and the SDG, United Nations SDGs. I think the gained expertise of Saudi Arabia, I think, is a good model for other Arab countries and also other developing countries worldwide. Thank you for listening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to put on the table our expertise. And this, we are now implementing it in domestic industrial wastewater reuse, for desert greening and for agriculture, and also for district cooling. It is not only confined to industrial wastewater use. Thank you very much.
شكرا سعادة الدكتور وليد.